Okay, here we go. All right, so what are the benefits of an effective personal brand? If it's done the right way, and your unique promise of value is targeted at the right part of the market, then it increases your chance of getting a steady stream of ideal clients, right? If people, when they think of you, straight away remember your brand and the things that defined you, very often it'll open up opportunities for rewarding business partnerships or even personal partnerships. A strong personal brand that you develop over time gives you confidence and allows you to be really like bring out the best of you and your authentic self. Is going to provide you leadership opportunities more often than not. And I think the part that really excites me about working on my personal brand, which is something that I definitely need to do more of, is taking over mind share of your target market, right? So there's just so much noise nowadays. There was a lot of noise before the whole COVID thing, and now there's even more noise than before. Everybody and their dog is at home, promoting their products and services. So mind share is something that's very difficult to maintain. And so having a message and having a clear brand just makes that a lot easier to stay in the forefront of people's consciousness, right? Your personal brand, as I mentioned a second ago, does very well when it relates to a similar niche, market niche. So again, defining a personal brand has to be authentic, but coming up with some differentiators that tie nicely to your market niche is good. So last week, when we were talking about optimizing your business website, we talked about creating personas for finding ways to find targeted traffic. And so the same can be done for yourself, coming up with your sort of brand persona as well. Credibility, number 6, is another benefit of having an effective personal brand. Recognition and prestige, if you want to start doing public speaking or whatnot, the more kind of noise you're creating on the social networks and whatnot, the better. I'm just going to pause for 2 seconds here and give people a fighting chance on Zoom because, as you know, it for some reason here it is. Let's just see if we can just fix this quickly. I'll just go with desktop, I guess. And then I'm just going to bring back this guy here. Okay, looks like we're sort of fixed. Hopefully that works. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so step up to stand out. So in today's marketplace, it's tough to stand out. Good grades and a lot of extracurricular activities won't guarantee that you land the job of your dreams or that you'll even land an interview. There are many qualified candidates out there. And the secret to standing out is to impress recruiters with the unique and authentic you. And that needs to be in person, on paper, and online, right? So, I mean, this slide was written a couple years ago. There is even more people now applying for jobs. It's just absolutely crazy out there. Everybody wants to work from home now. So never has it been more important to put effort into your personal brand, in my opinion, right? So we're going to talk about particular actions you can take in the next 30 days to up-level your personal brand. So we're going to talk about LinkedIn. We're going to talk about, social media marketing of your brand in a way that's time efficient and things like this, right? But really, I'm here today to try and help you guys and girls stand out online, stand out in person, and stand out in paper, right? So in paper, I've got a lot of experience with resume writing and helping people apply for jobs and whatnot. So that's the sort of paper part potentially, and you can go on forever, brochures and whatnot. In person is about how you present yourself in a kind of consistent way that matches in your unique promise of value. And of course, online, everybody knows you just got to have a good online presence, right? So, one of the things I'm going to recommend, something you can write down, is you really need to buy your domain name, right? So I own, of course, my domain name, julianbarabas.com. I've also bought my wife's and my kids. Anyone I meet, I say, go to GoDaddy and get your domain name before it's gone. One of the big reasons that I recommend people do that is that you might have, you will have more than one job in your life. But your personal brand is something that you own, and all of the effort you put into it can walk with you from job to job, from role to role, from contract to contract. So in my opinion, there's never a wasted hour of personal branding work that you do, because it's just it from cradle to grave, your personal brand is you, and no job that lets go of you or fires you can take that away, right? So, you can go to GoDaddy, get your first name, last name.com. You might find that halfway through your life, you shift a little bit in what you do for a living, or your hobbies or whatnot, and you can update your website and change your brand a little bit, and it's your message that you own, and no one can take that away from you. If you have new products and services, or you launch a business, you already have a network that you can reach out to and say, hey, guess what? Firstnamelastname.com is doing X, Y, and Z this year. You liked my last project, or you liked my last webinar. Let's go discover this together, right? So number one action item, go get your domain name, fire up GoDaddy, WordPress site or something, and just get something up there. And, worst case, paste your resume there. Maybe keep your cell number off it and just have like a call spam. But yeah, just it's all about making a bit of noise and telling people who you are. So obviously I'm making the argument that your personal brand matters. Your brand is your reputation. It's your calling card. It's what you're known for and how people experience you. It's about bringing who you are to what you do and how you do it. So I mentioned that before. It's a really key thing. We're going to try and, during this workshop, talk about refining who you are, what you do, and how you do it. Those are the big takeaways there. Delivering your brand clearly and consistently will increase a memorable experience of those you interact with, and can open new doors and opportunities, which is absolutely true. So again, who am I and why should you listen to me? Just really quickly. So Red Maple Media was the first company I started. The reason I paused is that my wife and I were involved in a business before that. So I did pick up a lot of stuff from that first business. It was a fashion store in Victoria, which Dominique, her business partner, and Colleen, my wife, ran. It was called North of Wednesday. So there was a ton of learning there about retail and Shopify and inventory systems and whatnot, and payment systems. But my first company that was solely mine was Red Maple Media. And next week's presentation, Thursday, 7 p.m. PST, same channel, I'm going to go and talk about exactly how I launched that company. It was bootstrapped, and it's still going today. So I think there's some good lessons there. The second company started was Digital Desk Coworking, which this is a presentation from, which is a shared office downtown in the Parkside Hotel on Humboldt Street. And that's been open, I think, 4 years now, and it's going well. And as you know, we're all working from home right now, so we're just keeping the vibe alive with these presentations. My day job is building software for Red Maple Media and doing internet marketing, Facebook ads. So future presentations, maybe in a couple weeks, we'll start getting into Facebook marketing, Google ads, I don't know, things like Canva, Photoshop, anything that helps you basically grow your personal brand or your business. So we'll be talking about that. Things I'm learning right now, really trying to dial in on the lead generation. So that's why I say upcoming expert in. It's just what I'm trying to really get better at. Customer acquisition at affordable costs, etc. And really, I'm just trying to bring a message across that I work hard, and I'm always just trying to grow my businesses and help people out, and I like to win. So it's just a little bit about me. So what is a brand? A brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. is Jeff Bezos of Amazon's interpretation. So I think the good part of that is that it's what other people think about you, right? And discuss about you. So that's why when we get to the questionnaires in a minute, I think it's a valuable exercise to print out a few of these questionnaires and give them to your roommates, family, coworkers. When I say print them out, maybe just email them, and get some feedback from them and ask them to be honest. You know, say, look, I'm working on my personal brand. I really want to up level my presence online. Do you mind spending whatever it takes, 15, 20 minutes to fill out these questionnaires? And you'll see in a minute the types of questions, which, you know, what makes this person unique? What are they good at? What do you think of them when you first, blah, blah, blah. We'll get to those questions in a minute, right? So I guess the point of this slide is that you can brand and you can preach that, but it's really your brand is what other people think about you. So if it's not an authentic brand, they might not relate to your message. They might think something else about you that you're not maybe aware. So again, be yourself, be authentic, real, genuine. It's less energy. Ideally, you want to have your attributes mapped to some niche in the market, of course. So you have to take that into consideration. Another author that I follow, Seth Godin, has another definition of what a brand is. And I think it's equally good. So a brand is a set of expectations, memories, stories, and relationships that taken together account for a consumer's decision to choose one product or service over another. So I love that. Set of expectations is a big part. So when people think of you, what are their expectations, right? When they think of you, what story do they think of? What I like to call an origin story. So we're going to define these things in a minute. Relationships that taken together, so these things all together, they basically help the consumer decide whether or not they want a relationship with you, whether or not they want to buy products or services off you. So I think that part there reminds me of making sure that your personal brand includes differentials, things that differentiate you and make you unique. Again, unique promise of value. If you come away with one thing today, what is your unique promise of value? So do you think you have a credible personal brand? So you need to ask yourselves a few questions. Do people have a clear understanding of what you do and the value it brings to the marketplace? And in order for you to define that, so what is it that you do? Who are you and how do you, sorry, let me get that the proper way around, right? So who are you, what do you do, and how do you do it? You kind of need to write that down yourself, right? And you need to write your own origin story. So I told a story last week in the Optimize Your Business website webinar where I really feel it's a good exercise to write your own origin story, which could be quite long, but then really a message. And you can use that on your website and it's very helpful. So what words and concepts and ideas are you going to use to tell your origin story? So we're going to go into that right now and look at some of the phrases and word choices that you might use. Speaking of word choices, it reminds me of something that my dad used to teach me, which is every word in the dictionary is either negative or neutral. And so I love that idea. And so when you choose the words to describe yourself, who you are and what you do and how you do it as part of your origin story and your brand, word choice is going to be absolutely critical. So just an awareness of that some words have a sort of negative connotation, some have very positive connotations, and some are just filler and neutral words, right? So what is personal branding? How do you take control of your brand, allowing you to influence and shape what you would like people to say about you? So we're trying to influence what people think about you, right? That's personal branding. So we're going to develop a process of developing a strategy, and then we're going to have particular tactics that I recommend you just jump on straight away, right? Like, this is such a great opportunity we have right now. We're all stuck at home. hopefully, if you're lucky, you have the internet. If you're on this webinar, you do. And so this is a great time to just take a baseline of where you are today online. You can do simple things like type your name into Google and Google yourself and see what comes up. If there's anything negative, you're going to want to get those removed. If you're not, I like to just take up the whole first page. I mean, if you put my name into Google, I take up I think the first page and a half, and that's the way you want to do it, is just dominate your personal name and your personal brand. Of course, that helps when you have your own domain name. So we're going to start getting into the tools and materials that are going to help us get there. Just going to have a drink of water, please. It's amazing how fast time flies. It's at 7:30 already, and I feel like I haven't started. And I thought I went too quick last week. Okay, here we go. How do you measure the effectiveness of a personal brand? How will we know once we discuss how to create your personal brand if we're going to be successful? The quick answer is engagement. So people sending you emails, signing up for your newsletters, getting testimonials that you didn't ask for, or maybe you did ask for, getting offers to speak at events or writing guest blogs. So if you really push your personal brand out, you will start to get engagement, and that is a way of measuring. So the first exercise that you guys could do this weekend is to build your persona. So last week we talked about building. Go back and watch how to optimize your business website if you don't know what a persona is. But this time we're building our own persona. So we're basically getting a blank piece of paper out, drawing a stick figure of yourself on it, and starting to put down words and sort of unique value that you might deliver and who you are and what makes you tick, basically. So we're gonna just jump right into that. So our persona describes who you are and the qualities that make you you. They are your distinct attributes, characteristics, vision, and values, right? So again, a persona includes the following: different attributes, different characteristics, a vision, and values that you hold dear, right? So again, these are things that you can spend some time thinking about. If you brainstorm with your little stick figure, you can start writing attributes on the top right, characteristics on the top left, vision statement at the bottom, different values and whatnot. So definitely send me an email, info@digitaldesks.ca, if you want these slides, and I'll send them to you. And you'll see in a minute here I have some useful adjectives that will help you formulate your phrases or whatever. So again, I kind of mentioned this before. We're going to get to it in a second, this questionnaire that I have. So you could print out this questionnaire and give it to your friends and family and kind of get a baseline of what people think about you. And you can frame it to a business conversation and say, when you think of business, what do you think of me? Or you can just leave it wide open. I guess one point I'll quickly make is that we live in a world now where work and life are really melded. I know when I first started my career, maybe it was just me, but Facebook got rid of that. Very much nowadays, recruiters were going to go check out your Facebook page to see kind of who you are and what you do and what the last 10 things you posted are. So work and life are really melded together today. So it's almost better if you just get a kind of general response from the people that you poll. So I'll leave this up for a minute here. Maybe I'll just move my mugshot a little bit out of the way so you can read that. So these are some helpful adjectives that you can use to fill out the questionnaires that are coming up. Maybe what we'll do is we'll just quickly walk through those questionnaires. So just give me a second here. Okay. So the first one was a questionnaire that I sent to participants before they arrived. So it would give me a head start on finding out what it was that they think, basically their baseline again. So I'll just go through this slowly so you can kind of take your own notes. So obviously who you are, and then what are your strongest attributes? Okay. If you need to look up what an attribute is, you can always Google that. What are you passionate about? It's the second question. What motivates you? Again, if I was creating a business website that's selling, for me, I do consulting. So if I was creating a website that was promoting my consulting work or my public speaking work, um, as I answer questions like this, what motivates you? I'd probably want to give it the context of a business environment, right? So just keep that in mind that um, it's good to tie it back in a little bit of a sense to your target niche that you're targeting. What are your personal values? So when I think of that, I also think of principles. So what principles do you live by? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Um, that's always an interesting one. Pretty effective. Maybe 5 years is too long. A couple years, 3 years. What is important to you? How would you like to see the world? And what contribution would you like to make? So spending some time answering these questions is helpful, um, and highly recommend that. And while we're doing this, I'm just going to go to the other questionnaire right here, and we'll just walk through this just to get your kind of mind thinking about it while we continue with the slides, right? So, what makes you unique? So again, what is your unique promise of value? I mean, that is really the takeaway message. What makes you unique in the marketplace? Who are you? What do you do? And how do you do it? Right? I'm going to just pause here for this next question. What results do people experience when working with you? What can you help others to achieve? Now, this one I really like. It reminds me of some sales books I've read where it talks about benefits versus features, right? So I come from a software world. You go to a website, look at a bit of software, and they just talk about features. It emails, it takes notes, it transcribes, it all these features, because usually it's a cut and paste from the software requirements document onto the website. But what's a lot more powerful, I think, is benefits. How does this software actually benefit my life, right? So when so what results do people experience when working with you? Think about the benefits. How does what you do and who you are benefit them? You really need to shift your perspective for a minute and say, okay, based on all the clients I currently have or the clients I want, what kind of personas can I create for those? And then when I embody those personas, what would I want from someone like me? Like flip it around a bit. So this is an important question here. What results do people experience when working with you? What benefits do you provide? Right? Where are those people going to end up after they've worked with you? Things like that, right? What personality characteristics make people interested in you? So we'll see in a minute. I think I have a slide that has kind of characteristics and whatnot. What makes you stay in your career? This is a great question. What types of activities cause you to lose track of time? So things you enjoy usually. What do you do differently than others in your profession? So again, this is driving towards uniqueness and your differentiator. What do you want to help others with? What's your why? And why do people come to you for help? So when I read this one, why do people come to you for help? This is maybe a great opportunity on your personal branding website to have other people answer that, be it in text or video. So you can go out and collect some testimonials for your personal branding website. So that's one of the things, of course, I'm recommending is you don't just buy your domain, but you go and fire up a WordPress site and start putting in your story and all of the basically answers to all these questions. And then you could also have some social proof testimonials, video testimonials that answer some of these questions. So that's something you can think about. And when people introduce you to how do they do it, so that's a great way to see what other people think of you is if you go to enough networking events and every time your coworker or your friend introduces you, they use certain terms or they define you in a certain way. Well, that's your baseline. That's what people are thinking about you, right? So anyway, again, if you want to me to send you an invite to these and you can fill them out or print them out as you wish, just send me an email and I can do that for you. So we'll go back to the slides here. So you can also take screenshots right now too if it's quicker for you, right? But here are some useful adjectives that are all helpful, right? So Julian has an open mind, is friendly, determined, he's a bit of a visionary. Like it starts to sound good pretty quick. So you just choose the ones that are applicable to your unique promise of value and your authentic self, right? So I'll move on, but that's definitely something that's a tool for you as you write your story. So previously in this webinar, I would go and evaluate the class's answers, but today I'm not going to be doing that. But if you do send me your answers and I see them pop up, I will respond. Maybe I'll get you, when you put your name in, just put in brackets your email address if you want a response. Okay, let's keep going here. So exercise 2, the promise, right? So again, UPV, unique promise of value, right? So the purpose of the exercise is to develop your unique personal promise of value. Understand what other people think they gain by working with you. Be clear about why you're the best at what you do. So again, these are things that you should keep in the forefront of your mind as you write the material that's going to define your new personal brand. So what is a promise? It's your unique value. How does someone benefit from working with you? And how do you set yourself apart from the competition? Do you offer unparalleled quality? Do you provide quick turnarounds? These are some examples. Do you enjoy solving complex problems? So when I see this bottom one here as a software developer, I realize that it is pretty easy to get a bit, what's the word? The only one I can think of is corny, but I've read this a million times on resumes. I enjoy solving complex problems. So really try and make your promise jump out. Again, it's the reason I kind of included these words. Really try and come up with a very tight, unique phrase set so that you don't sound corny or cliched. There's the word I was looking for, cliched. So yeah, again, what's your unique value? How do people benefit from working with you? And what differentiates you and sets you apart? So some existing materials, if you're in the corporate world, that might help you with your baseline or previous performance reviews you've had, any emails you have with project feedback that you're working on, or if you're selling a product, you might have a big email inbox full of feedback about your product. And your team, of course, might have some feedback. So, truth hurts, but if you go send out the questionnaire to a whole bunch of people, you're going to start to get a pretty solid baseline. So we have about 15 minutes here, so I'm going to keep moving here. So we've already done this. So this is the second questionnaire that helps you define your promise. So you can go and look at that later. So I've included some power phrases. So these are things that you can add to your origin story as you write that. Of course, you can go to Google and type in power phrases and get a whole bunch more. But these are a good ones. So Julian, I can build software because I'm good at concentrating for long periods of time and learning. I've had great success with public and private clients. I've had a great experience over the last 20. These are phrases that you can use to quickly get ahead with writing your origin story. Let's have a look here. So here are just some. This is very much business focused. So that when I was giving this class originally, it was for lawyers, business people. So here are some of examples of things you could offer. So for me, it would be technical experience, strategic planning. For somebody else on the call, they might have, of course, different skill sets, etc. Um, so anyway, just try and come up with your promises of value, basically, right? Building and leading teams. I like to hear that when I hire a software lead. Um, so I've included a few more sort of adjectives that are more fun. So you don't want to sound too kind of businessy and serious. Got to have a bit of humor these days. So think about using some more lighthearted adjectives as well. So in this webinar, you filled out your questionnaires. It's kind of helped you define. You can kind of fill it out twice. You could fill it out as a baseline today with answers from your friends and your network and your family, and then you could fill it out again on where you want to be in 3 to 5 years. Right? That's probably a good exercise to do. So once you've done that, you've created your unique promise of value. You've built your persona that shows the authentic, real, and genuine person that you are. All of that is in alignment with who you truly are, so it's not stressful, and it's authentic to promote that story, that brand. You've clearly defined who you are, what you do, and how you do it. Excuse me. So now you create your brand story, right? So that's the part we're going to work on next. So what is a personal brand story? A personal brand story is a short pitch, usually about 3 sentences to 5 maybe, that communicates your value, what you are best at, your audience, who you serve, and your promise, how you perform your value uniquely. Okay? So this is again an exercise that I'd like everyone to try, which is write your brand story. Okay? And we can look at some examples in a second here. Maybe before we look at an example, it's good to talk about what a personal brand story is not. So it's not a job title or a personal mission statement or your personal career objectives or your life's purpose. They can be part of your brand story, but they don't encompass the purpose of a brand story. What makes a successful brand story is that it's memorable, it's solution orientated, because the people that you're preaching to are looking for problem solvers and solution finders. You want to be kind of logical, but again, the fun adjectives can help inspire or pull up emotions from your readers. You do want to kind of bring in the history of your career. And again, trying to find unique and valuable brand attributes is a good idea. It's good to provide some examples that are specific. And again, you can't be too authentic. It really has to tie with who you are and what you believe in. So if we look at an example here, we have John. He's the CEO of a home decor manufacturer and distributor. He's trying to find new clients, so he has quite a general kind of persona, or audience, I should say. His persona is that he has the sense of humor, he's a hard worker, positive, energetic, collaborative, and diplomatic. And his promise is that he's very skilled at conflict resolution. He has an ability to unify teams. Again, it's the CEO part that he's really drilling in on here. He's good at identifying problems and managing conflict. So those are all things that you'd probably want from a CEO, right? So the personal brand story, as you can see down here, is about 5 sentences or so, or 3 long sentences perhaps. So I'm just going to read it out here, and as I'm reading it, try and think of the 3 parts. Who's the audience that you're targeting? What's the persona that your brand is and your authentic self is? And what's your unique promise of value? So I'm going to start. A focused and determined business leader. I offer the entrepreneurial stamina and wisdom to drive bottom line growth and lucrative business. Inspire employees to peak performance and cultivate profitable business relationships built on respect, loyalty, and trust. My easygoing sense of humor has been a defining management strategy to bring out the best in everyone, instill pride, and mobilize them to make their company the best in the industry. So it's not the strongest example ever, but it's a good one. It's all right. So again, it's your opportunity. I'm sure if you type into Google brand stories, you can find some other examples. But your goal is to define your target audience and your ideal client base. So again, this is something you can go back and watch last week's webinar about optimizing your business website, because we talk about defining a bunch of target personas in order. The example that I was giving last week was if you're looking for traffic online, you better create some personas so that you can target particular types of traffic. You just don't want any old traffic for your website. You want to target people that are going to be interested. And a good way to do that is create personas, right? So figure out your target audience, figure out where they live online, figure out who your ideal client base is. I've heard a million times from software developers that it's really hard getting lots of small clients. It's a lot easier to get a small group of larger clients. So figure out what your ideal client base is. It may not be your current client list. Define a value statement by focusing on your key attributes and your persona. Define your unique selling points or promise. So what do you bring that's unique to the marketplace? And then combine these elements to create a narrative that tells others about yourself, right? So this is an important slide for when you get around to creating your brand story. And you can use the same layout that was shown before. So the objective is once you've created your brand story that you're going to promote it. And a really good way as well is to develop brand advocates, right? So I've got a note here that says link your strongest attribute, persona, that's in your persona, and the results it created for someone, a promise, into a story. And tell your story to one of your brand advocates, and they will in turn promote that, right? So, a quick example of this is on a website, maybe having case studies of clients you've worked with before that explain why your personal attributes allowed you to promise the client one thing and that you're able to get that promise realized, right? I'm speeding up a little here because we have just 10 minutes or so. I'm going to probably have to go over a little bit again. What are the ways you can tell your brand story? So once you've done all this work, life gets a little easier because now you're just broadcasting it and amplifying your message across the internet, right? So you have your little 2-pager that explains your story, you memorize it, and the next thing you know, you're using it at conferences, you're using it when you're networking in one-to-one conversations. If it's an authentic brand that ties to exactly who you are, you're living that message. Any kind of social networks, you're putting that information on, and article footers, email signatures, and local meetups, etc. Right? So it just gives you basically ammunition to use in your networking. So again, these webinars are fun to watch and read, I hope, but unless you take action, and as my friends say, massive action, you're not gonna move the needle. You're not gonna make a change. So I really, really hope that you guys and girls are writing down particular action items. You don't need to write down all these slides. I can send them to you, but write down action items. And I also love when people write down due dates on them. So give yourself lots of time, but get your brand story in the next 5 days or whatever it is. Try and stick to it. And then once you've got all of your messaging, if you want to send it to me, I'm happy to sort of take a look at it and provide some feedback. And then once you're comfortable, you provide it to someone else to provide feedback. But once you're comfortable that you've completed all the tasks that we've talked about, then you can go into your LinkedIn profile. If you don't have one, please set one up and basically update it. And I'm a big fan of actually putting more text on LinkedIn than most people, because that's how people find you. They search against all of those attributes and whatnot. So I feel that your LinkedIn page should have quite a bit of information on it. It needs to be well written and tight, but there's lots of opportunity for people to find you. So here we go. So create an update and complete your LinkedIn profile. Start sharing your brand story and getting feedback on it. You can always iterate and refine, of course, how that looks. And those surveys that I showed you before, send those to 3 coworkers or colleagues and get some feedback on where you are today. Um, so I have a little video here that you can watch later. It talks about psychology of differentiation. So you can waste a lot of time on social media if you spend too long on it. So this slide here is just a reminder that there's tools like Hootsuite and Buffer out there, where you can post once and have it hit multiple platforms. So again, I'm a huge fan of people getting their own personal domain. Um, I like to use first name, last name. Some people might choose to use a brand name. There's pros and cons to both. A brand name you can sell to someone, whereas your name is always yours. But at the same time, if you build your own network, no one can ever take that away from you, right? So if you build a brand name and you have a co-partner, who knows who ends up with that brand at the end of the day in a few years.